but we also worked very diligently to make sure that we would provide a high-quality educational program, keeping in mind all of the protocols and guidance that came to us from the state of New York Education Department and also the New York State Health Department. Today, I would like to just share, before we get started, just to remind folks about the model that we will be providing throughout this upcoming school year as a part of our reopening plan. First, for all pre-K through 6 students, they will be able to attend instruction 2 days per week in person and 3 days a week virtually. So that's the first choice for pre-K through 6 students. If parents do not wish to pursue that model, pre-K through 6 students can also, they'll have a choice of attending virtually online for the full week, 5 days of instruction. All 7 through 12 students will receive their educational program virtually 5 days per week. At Charles E. Raleigh, Fitzhugh Park, Kingsford Park, and Minetto, that is where our UPK programs will be taking place. They are half a day programs, and again, they'll be able to come in 2 days a week, and then the other time would be remotely. I'd like to share that also we have a select group of secondary students, and I just want to make sure I clearly note this. It is secondary students, 7th through 12th graders, and this is a select group, not all, but a select group of students who have severe disabilities, particularly our students who would be in our 12-1-1 classrooms. We have a group of those students, and also English language learners who will receive their instructional program in person between 2 to 4 days a week, depending upon the needs of each individualized student. Those students, by the way, may also have a day a week where they may receive some support virtually, depending upon the individual child's needs. You should note that if that is one of your students, if that's one of your children, excuse me, our special education department or our schools will be reaching out directly to those parents to let them know. And again, that is only grades 7 through 12, particularly 12-1-1 students who attend that particular 12-1-1 classroom setting. And again, it's a select group of students. Also, you should know that career and technical education programs will be offered. They're going to be offered for 1 day a week in person. And then the other days they will be offered virtually, remotely/virtually. For all students who attend alt-ed programs and exceptional education programs at City BOCES, those programs will be offered throughout the week. And that would be 5 days a week at City BOCES. And again, that's a specific group of students who attend those programs. So just switching gears a moment, one of the things that we really looked at when we were putting together our reopening plan was the health needs in making sure that we were able to, again, secure the health and safety of students. So we have with us this afternoon Dr. Morgan. He was on with us this morning, and he's been a big part of the work that we're doing. He's actually partnering with the district. He is the district's physician. He has a whole team of folks that will be working with us. And I would like to just kind of open up with allowing him some time to share from his perspective about our plan and some things that we need to know and understand with respect to the health aspects of our district moving forward.
Thanks for having me back on again.
Thank you.
I think it's important to kind of recognize the situation that we're in. We are in a war with COVID-19. It's actually called novel COVID-19, meaning new, meaning we knew very little about it early on. And because of that, we had a period of time where we weren't sure where we were going to be going in the school year. We have to be exceptionally flexible. I try to emphasize that contracts don't mean anything in a pandemic. We need to get everybody from students, teachers, parents, bus drivers, custodial staff, everybody. We're not going to be doing things normally. And we have to look at the best way to do that. And there are no politics in COVID-19. This is science. So I like to talk about Bill Nye the Science Guy. Consider the following. We in New York State have the worst statistics in the country for a period of time. The epicenter was New York City and some of the larger cities within our state. We went from being the worst in the country to having some of the best statistics today, less than 1% of contact infectivity. And because of that, we're at a situation that we can consider coming back in some form of hybrid schooling. We do know from some of the southern states which went back earlier than we did, they did not have so much hybrid states, and severe elevations in cases developed. We saw pictures on the news of packed high school hallways, nobody wearing a mask, nobody distancing, and they paid a price where literally thousands, tens of thousands of people are now quarantined. So it's important to realize that the way we got the statistics is from three things: wearing a mask, social distancing, and washing our hands. Now, we are all here at least 6 feet apart so that we can help clarify with speech that you can hear us. It's difficult sometimes with a mask, and we understand that. But that's how we're going to beat this, is with masks, and we have to make sure everybody finds a mask that fits them, not one size fits all. Social distancing at least 6 feet, and washing our hands. And trying to eliminate within the school district any way we can to limit where those can be interfered with. One of the things we talked about before is students wearing a mask. When you're in your seats and 6 feet plus apart, you can take a mask break for 10 minutes every hour, which is what our plan is, and 20 minutes at lunchtime, because everybody will be eating at their desk who is in the school. We do this, we should be able to control the path down the road. We will evaluate where we're going. We have the potential to set an example for our state and for our country, and I think this community, I've been here for 35 years as a physician, really know how to step up and set the stage for the rest of the country and be an example. And with working with a group here, I think we've seen that they have tried to cover every angle possible, but this is a pandemic. This is something new, something that every 100 years, and hopefully not again for another at least 100 years, affects people, so we have to be flexible, very flexible.
Thank you.
And now we're going to get right into the questions. The first question is, does the curriculum focus mainly on academics, or are there social and emotional learning activities to help the students deal with the current situation?
So our curriculum this year will focus for sure on the academics that are needed, but also it will focus as well on social and the emotional needs of our students as well. So it'll be a combination of academics and social and emotional as well.
Will state testing such as Regents exams still take place this year?
So the Regents exam piece, we are still awaiting feedback and information from the state of New York. So at this time, we are not sure how that's going to go, but in the near future, hopefully we will be able to receive info from the state that will help us to be able to better answer that question. So at this time, it's unknown.
So what's the main way that teachers will interact with students? Is it email, video chat, phone calls?
So I would say that there'll be a variety of ways that teachers will interact with students. Certainly they'll be interacting on video. They will also be interacting using, I'm sure, video chats, emails, from time to time, depending on what the needs are with the students. It might be a phone call to the student and or the parent. So there are a variety of ways, but the main way will be on video. Excuse me, may I just?
Sure, absolutely.
Just so I can clarify, and that's video through our online platform. Just want to make sure that people understand that. That's the live interaction using our technology, the Chromebooks or the iPads that we'll be using. Just wanted to clarify that. Mrs. Plass, did you want to add anything to that at all?
I just wanted to say that the platform we're using is Google Meets, that they'll be doing their video conferencing with.
Great, thank you.
And I would imagine the same is true in terms of teachers providing feedback to kids, but how often can parents expect feedback from teachers?
So that will basically vary from child to child. Some parents will need feedback on a weekly basis, some may not need as much. So that really will vary. If parents need to interact with or have more frequent feedback from teachers, what they should do is actually reach out to the classroom teacher to let them know. I know that the teachers will also be reaching out as we get started to parents to let them know how often they could expect to be in touch with them. On Wednesdays, by the way, there will be some office hours where teachers can reach out to parents to have that discourse as needed as well.
The next question is, how will teachers assist kids who ask for extra help, and how often do they do things like hold extra help sessions?
So throughout the week, teachers are actually going to be assisting our teachers either in one-on-one ways, or they will be doing some small group. It really depends upon the needs of our students. So if there is a special need that children might have or parents might have, one of the things we would recommend again is that the parent and the child reaches out to their classroom teacher and lets them know, and then the teacher will coordinate that extra time for help with and for that child and or children from your household. Again, I would say on the Wednesdays, that is a time that we've actually designated for more one-on-one, small group, office hour times to make sure that we're not missing anything, and so that we can meet those individualized student needs. So again, parents, if you see your child needs more help, or students, reach out to your teacher, let them know, and I'm sure that they will work to schedule in some time to work with each child and to make sure that their needs are being met.
Can we talk about school supplies? What school supplies will my child need if they are in hybrid versus whether they're actually in school?
So I'm going to pass this one over to Mrs. Plass and also Dr. Sweeney to ask them about school supplies.
For the elementary, the school supplies, the classroom teachers will be giving you a list. Whatever school supplies that are asked to be brought in, they're going to be left there. They're going to be placed in bins. We are not encouraging students to bring anything back and forth. So the school supply list will probably mostly be around pencils, pens, different supplies that students normally would need, paper, notebooks, just the things that could be limited and small to put in the desks.
I would agree, especially with our 7 through 12, 12-1-1 students and the English language learners, the students we identify as needing to come to school. It will be very similar to what Mrs. Plass just said. We would ask them to have some materials at school in their classroom so that we're limiting the number of items that are going back and forth between home and school. For the majority of our other students who are learning remotely, it might be a little pared back that you would see they really need paper, pencil, notebooks. Most of the work is going to be transmitted to the teachers through their Google Classroom and those documents. They won't need as much, but I would imagine they'll still be taking notes. They'll still need a folder to keep themselves organized, but their teachers will be sending out information in the coming weeks.
If someone tests positive, what will happen, and will they take their child to the nurse's office to be quarantined?
So first of all, I guess I'd say that each situation is unique and different, and we will certainly evaluate each one one at a time. Now, with that said, I would say a couple of things that we will certainly do. If we find that there's some issues or with respect to symptoms, children are demonstrating some symptoms, we certainly will move students away from the other students. We do have an isolation area in each of our schools that we will be separating students from, and then kind of going from there. When I say going from there, we will be working with the New York State Health Department, our medical team, Dr. Morgan's folks, and really kind of working through that individualized matter. We'll also be doing some contact tracing and working together with the health department around that process as well. Dr. Morgan, would you like to add anything else to that?
We will not be doing any testing at the schools themselves, and we are expanding our capability of having an isolation area. We realize that historically in most of the schools, particularly in the elementary schools, the amount of space for the nurses area is relatively small. And now we have to keep social distancing at that place. We're looking at different places in each of the schools, part of the gym in some cases, another classroom that's not being used, so that we can set up separate anywhere from 5 to 10. We haven't figured out the exact number of places that each child could be kept isolated. If they have a fever there or some other symptom. The people who are caring for them will wear more PPE. They'll have a gown, they'll have a mask, they'll have a shield as well, and these areas will be cordoned off enough that we can easily handle certainly 5, and if we had to, a little bit more. And then we would contact their parents. They can contact their PCPs, which is what the county does right now. If somebody, one of my patients has some symptoms, they contact us. We do remotely through our computer system can evaluate them, help them decide if they need further testing, and we have specific locales in our city here that is geared towards the testing component. But it will not be in the school districts themselves.
And just to be clear, on our webpage, there's actually an area where you can kind of go on to, and you can find all of our testing protocols, and you'll find places that can provide that testing as well.
So this question is about scheduling and students who may receive additional services that are more frequent than our AABB schedule provides. So if a child is in the AABB elementary schedule, but they typically would get 4 days of speech, 2 days of OT, and maybe 2 days of PT, how will that work?
So a schedule will be actually put together with the classroom teachers, the special education providers, and also the parents. Parents will be notified as to when those related services will actually be provided, and a plan will be developed to make sure that there's continuity and consistency with respect to providing those services for students. So if there are any concerns around students receiving those services, they certainly should reach out to the special education staff member that's working with your child. Parents can also reach out directly to those related service providers or the Office of Special Education and Student Services, which can certainly help to work through or resolve any concerns with respect to making sure that kids are receiving the services that they need. You should also know that there will be some students who will receive services in person when they're here at school, and then some students will receive those services remotely. It really is dependent upon the individualized need of each student.
The next question goes to mask wearing, and we have answered this question earlier today. This one's a little bit different. If some employees, like PE, art, and music, have to travel throughout the building room to provide services, and not every student has to wear a mask or they don't wear them during those breaks at their seats, won't that spread germs going from room to room?
I'm going to have Dr. Morgan answer.
Certainly, the mask break that we spoke about before was in individual rooms. And that's to give a break, particularly for the younger students, but for everybody. We all would like a little bit of a break. But that is consistent with nobody being up and around in the room. You have to be in your seat, everybody. If somebody's going from one class to another, you should have your mask on. When you come to a certain school, you need your mask on when you come in. You need your mask on when you're going to the office. You need a mask on when you're in the hallway. You need your mask on in the bathroom. You need a mask on when you're entering your classroom. The only time you're going to take your mask off is during one of your designated 10-minute mask breaks and when you're eating lunch. Other than that, your mask is on. And everybody can find a mask that will fit them. There's no excuse not to have a mask. We may need a special type of mask, and that's something that can be worked on an individual basis, but we all need to wear a mask. There really is no gray area.
Will there be childcare before and after school, as well as in the schools on remote learning days? For example, what happens on Wednesday?
So the district has actually been partnering, and we are partnering right now with the YMCA, who is going to be providing before and after care for our district students. In the past, we've had before and after care in 3 of our elementary schools. It'll be in all 5 elementary schools. So again, there'll be before and after care. I believe the hours are 6:45 a.m. And they go up until, I believe, 6 p.m. In the evening at our schools.
Students come at 7.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Plass, you want to share something on that? Go ahead.
The students start at 7.
Students start at
The staff arrives at 6:45 to get ready for the day.
Thank you. So we will for sure have some before and after care through the YMCA. Now understand that we don't run that program, the YMCA does. So if there are parents who would like to research or receive those kinds of services, you should reach out directly to the YMCA who will provide that information. Aside from that before and after care, there will also be a 5-day program that the YMCA is going to offer for a limited amount of students here in the district. So we know that we're going to have some students who are going to be home for remote instruction fully, and there are some parents who are going to need remote care, child care rather, during those days of remote instruction. So there will be a program offered here for, I believe, between 30 to 40 students. We'll offer it in our middle school, and again, that's a full-day program. And if we have parents who are interested in that, they should also, again, reach out to the YMCA about that programming. Also, while we're on this, so if the folks from our television station can put up the one screen there, a shot around the Office of Children and Family Services. So just so you know, the Office of Children and Family Services, they have a website that is actually posted on our district website, and they actually provide information about child care providers. I know that there are a number of parents who are in search of child care, and so you can actually go to that site, put in Oswego, New York, and they will list for you the number of agencies that are in our area, our immediate area, that can provide support for our families. The other part of your question, if I remember correctly, was about what will the Wednesdays look like? So Wednesdays there'll be a combination of things that will be happening on Wednesdays. So there will be one-on-one instruction for kids who need that. There'll be office hours occurring. There will be also small group instruction that will be happening. There may be some enrichment opportunities also happening on Wednesdays. So a variety of things will be happening. Teachers will be checking in with families, checking in with parents, and also checking in with students and supporting students. You may also see some additional related services, special education services, AIS services provided on those Wednesdays as well. So a number of things will be actually taking place on the Wednesdays. Thank you.
Will backpacks and lunch pails be allowed for students?
So, as we're kind of moving forward, the one statement that comes to mind is the least amount, the better, right? So, can students bring backpacks? They can, but we would prefer at this time that they not wherever possible unless it's absolutely necessary. Lunch pails, certainly kids can bring those to school. Water bottles can also come to school with kids. But again, we're going to ask parents to please, as much as you can leave at home right now, the better, right? Our goal is, again, to maintain a very healthy and safe environment, and so less is better. This is not business as usual, so if you can leave that backpack at home, please, at this time, we're asking you to leave that at home and not send it in at this time. Thank you.
The next question is about when it is that students will get Chromebooks if they need one, teacher assignments and things like that. When will materials be distributed?
Right. So we actually have now begun the process of planning to make sure we distribute our Chromebooks or iPads and also materials. So during the week of September 8th through the 11th, Chromebooks and other instructional materials will actually be distributed to the community. So again, that week is September 8th through the 11th, and each of your schools will certainly be sharing those specific dates that those materials will be provided to the community for pickup.
As other districts are starting to, is there a chance that of all K through 12 being every day?
So, first of all, let me just kind of be clear. And I'm going to ask if the gentleman from the TV station will kind of put up a couple things. So, as we were putting together our plan, we were really working diligently to try our very best to get every student that we could back to the district for some in-person instruction. That was our goal. That's where we started at. But as we started to really work through all the parameters, looking at things like transportation, the health and medical needs of students, sanitation, nutrition, and all the day-to-day operations and movement that had to occur in our district, it became very clear to us that that was going to be a real challenge for us to be able to do, and to do not only well, but in a very healthy and a safe way. And so one of the things that we did was we kind of really worked through and figured out, okay, for us to start and to reopen, what we needed to do was really start out with one group of students, and that's our pre-K through 6 students with in-person education. Now, this is our reopening plan. So I want folks to know that this is where we kind of start at, right? But what we're going to be doing is evaluating, watching, and monitoring how things go. And as things kind of move forward, you know, the better we do, right, the better we'll be able to have a chance to be able to bring students back. That is not going to be a very fast process. So I want people to kind of know that right now, right? Slow and steady wins the race. So we're going to be taking it one step at a time, right? As we kind of move forward, there may be another group that comes back. It might be our middle school students or our high school students. It depends on the health and safety needs and our ability to be able to provide a high quality education in a very safe manner for our students. You know, one of the headlines that's been out there, it says, no one size fits all, right? What we've seen across not only the state, but also across the country, across New York State, is that districts actually, believe it or not, with all the plans that have gone in, there's over 700 districts, there is no one size that fits all, right? Every district actually is doing it pretty much differently. There may be some things similar, but for the most part, everybody's doing it differently. With that said, you know, this is the plan that we were able to come together with around our district. We thought it was the best plan, and we stand strongly behind it. And as soon as we can provide additional opportunities for kids, one step at a time, then we'll work to plan for that and make sure that people know that. I know that there are some folks who'd like to have kids in school every day of the week. This is an unprecedented time with unprecedented matters before us, and so we can't do it all at once. But we can do it this way to start out with in terms of our reopening, and we will take it one step at a time.
This question asks, who will check in with children on their remote learning every day? If the classroom teacher is working with the other cohort, who's checking in with the BB students?
Great. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Plass to answer that question for us, and also I'll have Dr. Sweeney as well answer for us, both of them.
The teachers will have afternoon office hours to check in with the cohort that they're not directly seeing for the in-person learning. So the afternoon after 1:45, they can check in with those students, but also the AIS providers can check in with those students, or any support staff can be checking in with those students throughout the day if they have that time built into their schedule. It's all about the scheduling of each independent teacher, but the classroom teacher herself will have that afternoon, couple hours in the afternoon to look back at the students' progress in Google Classroom and then check in during office hours.
And we also have a variety of other teaching professionals. So we have our teaching assistants who will continue to check in with the students with whom they work. We have our school counselors, our school psychologists, different teaching professionals that students would work with. They would have that same opportunity to check in with them.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, this one might be for you. Or Mrs. Squires. Will we be collecting mega saliva samples for testing? If a sample is positive, do all students get quarantined as well as the siblings, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, as we mentioned before, we are not going to do any testing in the school buildings themselves. What this is probably pertaining to, because testing has been such a problematic problem in this country for many reasons, they're looking at ways that we could test more people, and they do it in groups, even up to 25 people. If everybody gives a saliva test and the group tests negative, then you don't need to test anymore, and so you save 24 tests. If you do that with a group, and 25 is about the maximum number they're talking about, and it's positive, you have to go back and test everyone individually. But this could save 24 tests that might be made available for somebody else when there's a shortage of tests. There's very good science here. Again, as we spoke, science is how we're going to beat this disaster we're in. so that when there's not enough testing available, that's an option. Again, I think the Oswego County, in conjunction with the Oswego Health, are working constantly to improve their testing capabilities. Oswego Health, that they're ordering new instrumentation, we're getting different tests, that we want sensitivity and specificity. We want to make sure there's not false positives, because there has been that case, and you don't want false negatives either. You know, as high as 25% of people with COVID-19 have no symptoms whatsoever, which is why it's so important to have the mask, the distancing, the washing. We should treat everybody as if they're carriers. That way we don't let our guards down, so if somebody does become infected, we limit the exposure to everybody that's around them in a school, in a grocery store, wherever we happen to be. So this continuation is not just for our school district, it's for our society right now as a whole.
Will parents have to scan temperatures at home each day? And will the district simply believe parents when they say they've done that? What does the process look like?
So each morning before sending your children to school, there's actually going to be an online questionnaire that we will ask parents to fill out. And it actually, asks about the symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19. And so parents will go down and kind of double check and each of the questions and answer them. And then that will be submitted online. Aside from that, I believe one of those questions actually ask about temperature. I'm pretty sure that it does. However, aside from that, before students actually arrive to school or are able to have access to our schools, we will actually be checking their temperature. So you can expect that before your child, if he or she rides a bus, before they are able to get on the bus, there will be a person there who will check temperatures. When they come to school, there will be a door for kids who are walking to school, and there will be someone there who will be checking temperatures. There will also be a place where people who are driving kids in to have them dropped off, there will also be a person there to check temperatures. Now that's going to vary depending on the building in terms of the doors and entryways. However, regardless of who you are, there will be a temperature check before you can come into the buildings. You should also know with visitors and parents who might come to the buildings throughout the day, even those who are doing deliveries to the schools, we will have a survey that needs to be answered, and there will also be a temperature check that will take place as well.
Will attendance be taken every day of school?
Yes, attendance will be taken. And again, our expectation is that kids are on when instruction is happening. And again, so yes, the answer to that question is yes, attendance will be taken.
The next question is for Mrs. Squires. Are all classrooms in the school district air conditioned, and are fans allowed?
All of our classrooms are air conditioned. Students should not bring any fans or any other equipment into the classroom.
Are we going to use Google Classroom?
Yes, we will be using Google Classroom as we move forward with this remote/virtual learning plan.
Can someone talk about what a typical elementary classroom will look like? Other districts have posted pictures of their classrooms, but could someone describe what an elementary classroom in Oswego might look like?
Sure. I'm going to have Mrs. Pless talk a little bit about that.
The principals have been working this summer to go in and make sure that desks are 6 feet apart. So they've already removed a lot of furniture out of the classrooms and put them in gyms. So the classrooms will be, the desks will be set 6 feet apart. And also I know that there will be a video prior to entering the school that will be posted on our website of what it looks like when you enter a classroom. So you will be able to see it prior to entering.
Thank you. Can someone talk about what specials might look like in the elementary school? Will there be any curriculum offered for music, art, and physical education?
Yes, I'm going to have also Mrs. Pless talk a little bit about that one as well.
Yes, all three will be offered. We're looking at the PE, art, music teacher pushing into the elementary classrooms and doing projects that they've pre-prepared so that there are no sharing of any kind of utensils or any kind of equipment. And the PE will, on nice days, take the students outside to run. They have to stay 12 feet apart, obviously, so the PE teacher will try to get students out when they can. Music and everything else will be done on a rotating basis, just like the current kind of schedule an elementary student would have. And so that would also have virtual sessions too. So they'll be planning both. They'll be planning in person and they'll be planning some virtual work that students, assignments that students can do at home, placed in their Google Classroom. So we're working on both ways.
Thank you. Will there be packets offered weekly for pickup, similar to what the district did early on in March in terms of enrichment, or will there be instructional packets for students to pick up for remote learning?
So my response is that, so there may from time to time be some material packets, so to speak, that may be available from time to time. However, this year's model is really much different from what actually happened in early March and April, which was pretty much like an enrichment model. We're going to be providing what's necessary for all of our children really remotely at this time as we kind of move forward throughout this year.
Are students required to get a COVID-19 test prior to returning to school this fall, or when they're sent home with a fever?
At this time, no, they're not required for going to public schools. People and some parents may have heard most colleges are now requiring testing prior to being accepted back in, and I've been doing a lot of that with my patients at my practice. We're not doing any testing here, so if somebody has symptoms, we will move them to our isolation area where they'll be monitored by somebody, the school nurse, until the parents can contact their private physician. But the testing will not be done on premises.
Thank you. For Mrs. Squires, will lunches be provided for OMS and OHS students?
Yes, lunches will be provided to students that are free and reduced. Our food service director is working on a plan to have lunches delivered to those students. We also have access for them to come to the high school to pick them up if they so choose, but there is a plan to have lunches distributed to students. For the elementary students that are in person, we also are going to be providing breakfast and lunch in the classroom during the day. And for those students that are remote, it's going to follow the same plan as the high school and middle school.
Thank you. The next question asks, how can teachers successfully teach students they've never met, especially 7th graders and 9th graders?
So every year our teachers teach students that they have not met before, right? Our teachers are really good at being able to build relationships, whether they're in person or virtually, right? We have really great experts at teaching and learning, and they're skilled at being able to build relationships with kids that they haven't met before. And our expectation is that they will continue to do the same thing as they work with new students this year. We've got great teachers. They'll build relationships with any child, whether they've known them in the past or where they're new to them this upcoming year.
And the next question is similar but different. The writer asks, why am I paying school taxes when your teachers aren't even working full-time?
Well, to that question, I want to be clear because I still consider myself to be a teacher, right? And I have a wife who is a teacher of a number of folks who are teachers. I want to be very clear. Our teachers every teacher is working full-time. In fact, our teachers, I'm sure this year, as they have in the past, will be working even beyond the regular time constraints. You have to keep in mind that teachers this year are being asked to do things that they've never kind of had to do to this extent before. And teaching doesn't start and end when people walk into the door and leave from the doors, right? Teachers are doing work over the weekend, they're doing work late at night, they're doing work early in the morning. So, I want to be clear, all of our teachers will be in and will be working with our kids either in person here, or they'll be doing it remotely from here, or from outside of here, excuse me. But they're all going above and beyond. And so with respect to that question, our teachers are going to be working full-time. They will be doing that for sure.
Will there be any money to help offset the cost of childcare? We've talked about childcare being provided, but this writer is asking about reimbursement.
Right. So no, there is no reimbursement funds for parents who have to go out and secure childcare. The district does not pay for nor reimburse childcare cost. However, I would say if parents are having some struggles and need some extra assistance with childcare, particularly with the program that we're going to be offering through the YMCA, there is a limited amount of support for parents who might fall into that particular category. I would encourage you to reach out to the YMCA, talk with them about their fee structure, and to see if there are any funds that will be out there that might help or assist with securing child care supports.
And the same is certainly true for a parent that might be asking about reimbursement for internet. Can you talk about what the district's doing to provide Wi-Fi for those that really, truly need it?
Right. So if there's a parent who needs some support around the internet for a variety of reasons, it could be they may not have reliable internet. It could be that the cost may be a bit much. Not to worry, the district is going to be providing Wi-Fi support for all of our students. And we'll be actually giving students a hotspot that they can kind of plug into their computer, and they can utilize it throughout the week. So that way there's equity and access to everything that we're doing with this new learning plan and process. All parents need to do is reach out to the school district, reach out to their particular school, and then come and pick those items up. And again, those items will start being available to the public during the week of September 8th through the 11th.
Thank you. The next question, will things be more streamlined in the fall in terms of instruction than they were last spring? I'm not sure what streamlined means, but I think we've talked quite a bit about how the district's new model for reentry is very different than what we did in the eye of the storm last spring, but if anybody would like to enhance that thought.
So generally I would say, first of all, last year was an unprecedented year, not only for Oswego, but across the entire country, right? Everyone was doing some things in a very different way than we've probably ever have been asked to do before. So there were some lessons learned from that process, and I did share that in a recent Board of Education presentation, which you can kind of go back to and look on our website, and you can find that information, or on our board presentation TV channel. You can kind of go back and find that presentation. I would say that things will certainly be better streamlined this year, and we're continuing to learn and get better at this each day. But I think parents will certainly see things a little bit different this year. Again, we've learned some lessons from the past. Every district has. And I think we'll continue to grow and develop, and we'll be better at things this year because we've had time now to go through the process and figure out what worked from what didn't work. Will there be some hiccups? There will be. But will we be better than where we were before? I believe absolutely, right? I'm not sure if Mrs. Plass or Dr. Sweeney wanted to add to that.
Oh, I think you answered it very well.
Okay.
I think that it's important to point out that this reality for public schools has been a process.
Yes.
And in early March, in the eye of the storm, districts were scrambling to submit plans to SED in order to provide some learning opportunities for kids. And in Oswego and many districts, that was in the form of packets for students that didn't have technology, or opportunities for them to get on and get enrichment and review materials that were important to keep students engaged. And then throughout the spring, the district moved to more of an essential learning model, where there was more direct instruction done virtually. But now we're moving into what does this reality look like in a new school year And I think the plan that's been developed is very different than the plans that we submitted before, and will provide a greater level of direct instruction that's in real time. I'm going to skip to the second part of the next question, which is if a parent sends their child to school and then decides that they would rather do remote learning, can they change their mind?
Yes, parents can change their mind. Absolutely they can. However, parents should know that when they do change their minds, that there will be some time in between the time you let us know and the time that we're able to change that particular student to the new model. So there's a number of things that need to be taken into account. The classroom that the child is going to become a part of, parents should know that will change because we have a specific group of students who are actually coming in person, and there's a different teacher that teaches that group versus the group that will be online fully remotely / virtually. So can you change the model? Can you change your mind? Yes, you can, but there's going to be some time in between. We need to think about things like transportation, nutrition, the class size, who's going to be the actual teacher. So parents can change, but you just need to know up front that there will be some, you need to give us some leeway time, and we will kind of share with you once we hear from you what to expect in terms of the time before we can change the model with and for students.
And the second part of that question is, when will parents know who their specific teacher assignment is and whether they're AA or BB in the schedule?
So we're looking for schedules to be distributed or disseminated amongst the community during the week of August 24th. So throughout that week, parents will be receiving schedules and information about classroom assignments.
Can you talk a little bit about what the process was for selecting members of the reopening task force, and how did we ensure that we reached a diverse group of stakeholders?
So the New York State Department of Education and also the governor's office provided some guidance to every school district as to a stakeholder group that needed to be assembled to be able to create the reopening plan. And in that guidance, we were told that we needed to grab or pull together teachers, administrators, community members, parents, health, medical organizations, a variety of stakeholders. And using that guidance, we actually kind of just began to reach out to the community and find as many people as we could to come together to help us around this reopening plan. With that said, we were given actually only a 2-week time frame to not only gather people, but to also create our plan and then submit the plan to the state. And could you imagine this kind of enormous amount of planning that has never pretty much ever had to be done like this before, and you're only given a 2-week time frame to do all of this. Like every district, we worked pretty quickly, pretty diligently to reach out to as many folks as we could, to our unions, our collective bargaining groups, just all, our community members, health folks, and we were able to assemble nearly 35 people to come together and start to work through this. And we really only had a couple minutes to kind of say hello, and then we kind of hit the ground running and planning. And we have been actually planning since we started. We're still in the process of trying to just solidify some things and make sure that we have everything in place that we need with and for our students and our community. So that's how this whole group came together, basically.
The next question is from a parent of a kindergartner, and they're a little concerned about how they can make an informed decision about whether to send their child back with the AABB schedule or to try to do more remote learning. And they're wondering exactly what would remote learning look like for a kindergartner.
Sure. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Plass to kind of share a little bit about what it might look like for a kindergarten student who's going through remote learning.
With the remote learning, there will be scheduled times that the teacher can get online with the students with remote learning. They'll be working again in Google Classroom with assignments placed in there, different activities placed in there, different pre-recorded instruction, but they also will have the opportunity to work throughout the day at different times with a classroom teacher live through Google Meet. So the schedule will be fluid with anybody that goes pure remote. If you're choosing the AA schedule with some remote learning, the AA, obviously the in-person part is with the kindergarten teacher, but the remote part of that would be more of pre-recorded direct instruction done by the teacher and assignments done. So the pacing of that would be set by the parent of when they get into Google Classroom. And then again, at 1:30 or 1:45 and beyond is when the teacher can meet with any student that was not in person that day to answer any questions. Or, I'm sorry, with the parent and the student to answer any questions.
There was a follow-up question, I believe, from the same parent asking for some details in our plan. And I think it might be a good time to point out that any parent can visit the district's website under the red banner and look at our reentry plan. Specifically on pages 10, 12, and 86, you can find information about reentry, student schedules, and things like that. The next question is about accommodations for working families who are also not reasonably able to support remote learning during the workday. Will families have an opportunity to make up for lost time during the workday when they get home from work in the evening?
So what I would say is, each of those situations are unique and individualized, and what I would encourage parents to do is to reach out to the classroom teacher and to discuss those individualized matters with the classroom teacher so that arrangements can kind of be worked out. There's some opportunities throughout the week, particularly on Wednesdays for office hours with our staff to kind of work through some of those unique matters. I do want to, though, go back again and say we do understand that there are some child care needs, right? And if you go, again, to our webpage, you will find the Office of Children and Family Services page there. And I think if the gentleman could put that up again, you will find that place there, and that might be able to assist you in terms of child care support that you might need. And also I'd like to just make sure that I point out again our expectation. So, we are really looking for families to partner with us and come on as much as possible. It's important that we try to just work together, and I know that there are going to be some unique situations. So, reach out, let us know what your unique situation is, and we'll work together to kind of make sure that we can get support with and for our students. And wherever possible, we'd like to have students on during the hours that instruction is actually taking place, and that's between 8:45 a.m. Till right up to 1:30 for our elementary students. Our secondary students, that's 9 a.m. up until 2:30 p.m. each day.
I think it's important to point out that we recognize that this is significantly challenging
Absolutely.
for parents,
Right.
particularly elementary parents. There is no easy solution. We're trying to put together a reentry plan that provides the best possible learning experience for K through 12 students, understanding that it does unfortunately create real significant challenges for families, and we know that and appreciate that.
Right.
I think that moving forward too, it might be important to point out that very specific questions regarding scheduling and materials and supplies might be better answered by the school directly.
Right.
And we encourage parents to reach out to their principals and the teachers specifically when those assignments are made. And we know that our principals have been working since this all started, and our teachers are more than willing to help work out any questions or concerns that particular families have regarding anything. The next question, my son receives an IEP for math and reading. Is he to go to school fully, or how does this work out to ensure that his needs are met relative to his IEP?
So each student with disabilities have individualized learning needs, and so in terms of the needs of those students, so each child might require something different. So that in terms of coming in person or receiving services remotely. Parents, that really is their decision, and the district will certainly work to make sure that we provide services in whatever model is selected by the parent or guardian. With that said, also, I want to kind of go back to something that I started out with at the beginning of our program, and that is, there are some students, and that again is a select group of students, those are secondary students, grades 7 through 12, who have severe disabilities. They are typically in what we call our 12-1-1 classroom. There's some students in that group of students, and also students with English language learner needs, who will be coming to school a little bit more than others. They'll be here between 2 and 4 days a week because of their significant learning needs and the supports that they will need to have in place for them. So those if you have a student from that particular group of students who meet that background or criteria, please know that the Office of Special Education and also Student Services and or special education teachers will be reaching out to you as parents or guardians to let you know specifically about the supports that will be provided and the days, the hours that those supports will be provided here in the district.
So this concludes this version of our reopening forums. We thank everyone for tuning in, and we look forward to answering more questions for you this evening at 5 o'clock. And I will pass it back now to Drs. Calvin and Morgan for any last-minute thoughts.
Great. So I want to thank everybody again for coming on and being a part of our presentation here today. We're really glad that so many folks took interest and reached out to us to ask questions, right? Our goal is to make sure that we can provide answers to all the questions that we are receiving. I'm going to give Dr. Morgan a chance to share any last-minute thoughts that he might have, and then I'll just share my last couple thoughts.
The main thing is to work as a team, and not just in the schools, but in our community. And it's science. Science is how we're going to beat this. Hopefully we'll have a vaccine in the spring, but in the meantime, we know we can control it because we've shown that we have with our masks, with our social distancing, and with our hand washing. And we can instill this in our young people. People in other dire situations of wartime, Great Depression, they worked through that, and we can do the same. And I really, from being in this community for as many years as I have, I really feel we can meet this challenge, set an example, and perhaps be a light for the rest of the country. And we can do it when we work together.
Absolutely. I'd like to just end by sharing with everyone just a couple of thoughts. First of all, a lot of time and a lot of attention, a lot of thought has gone into this reopening plan that we have put together. We have carefully crafted this plan, and our goal is, as we've put the plan together and now we move to implementing it, our goal is to make sure that, again, two things. We provide a high quality education for our students, and secondly, that we ensure the health and safety of our entire learning community. Again, I'm going to ask those folks if they can put up on the screen. I know that we have some people who would like to see things that may be done in other places. Again, one size doesn't fit all. We are not unique with respect to that. But one thing that I feel very confident in is that we have the right plan for our district as we reopen our schools, right? I'd like to let folks know that we're going to be monitoring our progress very closely. We're going to be looking to see how everything works, one step at a time. And if we continue to do very well, if we move forward in a very positive manner, then we will take it one step at a time as to what other areas and programs we might be able to reopen. But again, we'll take it one step at a time. And again, we're going to make sure that we really continue to keep our eye on things and evaluate as we move forward. The last thing I'd like to share is kind of what I shared in the last session, and that is, schools are in a very different time now. We're actually building the airplane while we're flying the airplane. This is an unprecedented time. And with that said, we're asking that our community be patient with us, that we continue to remember that really we're all in this together. I don't think that there is any staff member, that there is any administrator, any community member, any parent member who really doesn't recognize how serious of a time we're in. And we're really all on the same team. And our goal is to really do the very best that we can with and by our students. We are committed to providing a high-quality education, and we're going to do everything possible that we can to make sure that our kids are very successful. We will get through this. We will come through this and get to the other side. We'll do it together, and we'll make sure that we are safe and we keep everyone very healthy. With that said, I want to thank everybody who has come on and has been a part. I want to thank all of our cabinet members who've been supportive and helpful today, and Dr. Morgan, and also Dr. Guai. But thank you to the entire community, and especially those task members who helped to put together this reopening plan. We'll be back on this afternoon, or this evening at 5, and again, I want to thank everybody. Dr. Guai, anything else from you?
That's it, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We'll see everyone back at 5 o'clock.